All right, guys, today I'm going to chat with you about the issue of dairy, okay? Okay, let me tell you a story about dairy and what the dairy industry used to be and how that was beneficial for our bodies. So back in the day, cows would eat grass. They would live in pastures, have lots of sunlight, be exposed to lots of incredible microbiome. And then we would milk those cows and drink raw milk that was filled with good fats and proteins and bacteria that was really good for you. And we wouldn't drink it in excess either. So you are what your food eats. So these cows that we are milking and drinking their milk, they essentially just ate plants. And then all the phytonutrients and all that nutrients was transferred to their milk. And then we drank that milk that had the bacteria, the nutrients, the fats, all of these really good things, and we wouldn't react to that milk. Now, let me paint you another picture of our modern society and what the dairy farming industry looks like today. So cows today that are factory farmed and milked are in small confined spaces. They never see sunlight. They are pumped, they're loaded with antibiotics. They are loaded with growth hormones so that they can grow faster, produce more milk. They stand in their feces all day long. So that's how high of a dose of antibiotics that they need to have. Because that milk that then essentially gets milked out of them is exposed to all of this disgusting bacteria that will make us sick and potentially kill us, right? So we have cows that are fed GMO corn because that's cheap, which we know GMO corn is drenched in glyphosate. So now they are eating inflammatory foods, which also have inflammatory chemicals that are cancerous. And then those foods are being turned into milk. So now we have this inflammatory milk, we have antibiotics in that milk, we have growth hormone in that milk, and not only that, but when the cows are milked, that milk is heated to ridiculous temperatures to make sure that we don't have any bacterial contamination at all. And so when we heat that milk, it destroys any nutrients that was left, but which is minimal because the fat profiles are inflammatory now because of the corn that the cows were fed. So anyways, so the milk is heated and the proteins start to clump together, so they glutinate. And is that the right word I'm looking for? They stick together basically. And now we have these clumps of protein molecules that are heated that are now inflammatory and carcinogenic. But not only that, when we drink it, it acts like sandpaper on your intestinal wall. So now we have zero bacteria in this milk. We have terrible nutrient profiles. We have antibiotics in it. We have inflammatory proteins. It's a recipe for an autoimmune disaster. And we pump ourselves and our children with this milk daily. So here is why when people have autoimmune issues and people have inflammatory issues and gut issues, the reason why I take them off of dairy to begin with is because even if you did switch to a raw dairy source, your immune system is so used to tagging dairy as a negative invader that any form of dairy, even now that it's raw and it has the good bacteria and it could be potentially beneficial for you, your immune system has already marked that as foe. So you need to heal your immune system first before you switch over to raw milk. I hope that makes sense. And again, like dairy in moderation. If you do have access to raw milk, which is ideal, don't ever touch anything else. I mean, again, even if you're getting like pasture raised, grass-fed, grass-finished milk from cows, it's still heated, right? And so we still have the carcinogenic factor. We still have the clumping factor of the proteins, the killing off of the good bacteria. We have all of those things that come into play. One other thing that I want to bring to your attention are whey proteins. Okay, so when it comes to protein shakes and people are downing whey protein shakes, the reason why that is so inflammatory and so bad for your body is because of this. True whey comes from raw milk. And what happens is when you leave the raw milk out, the whey separates from, oh, I forgot what the other part is, but you will often see the whey as like a yellow, clearish kind of liquid with all the cream and the fat floating at the top that you can skim off and actually kind of substitute for sour cream. But that whey is so healthy for you. So you can collect that whey from the raw milk and use it in like smoothies or whatever you want to put it in, basically. And that has the high protein profile, and it's so good for you. But what's interesting is when we heat milk, that whey literally cannot separate. It won't separate. You guys have probably seen sour milk. It just smells gross, but you don't see any separation because with your non-raw milk, that whey has been so pasteurized into the fat molecules that it just can't separate. So then how do these companies that put whey protein in their protein, how do they extract that whey? Because they're getting their whey from pasteurized milk, right? The heated milk. They have to use chemicals. They have to use chemicals to extract that whey. So you are getting essentially dead whey that has now been extracted by chemicals. It's hyper processed, which our bodies don't like. Our bodies don't like processed foods. Our bodies like foods that are whole, complete foods. They have good profiles of nutrients, and they have good bacteria, because that bacteria from that milk, again, helps us to digest that milk, right? So now we have no bacteria. We have tainted whey. We're pumping it in our protein shakes, and then we're drinking that thinking that our protein is covered for the day, when really we're just creating an inflammatory nightmare. So hopefully that covers all your bases with dairy and answers a lot of questions as to why I don't like dairy for people that are sick and have inflammation, just because of our history with it. So let me know if you learned anything new. If this was helpful, if you have questions, just send them my way, okay? See you guys, bye.